都是这个都市都是这样，都这个村落都是崎岖不平的。这个广场虽然是餐厅，人很多，坐得满满。
Oui, il faut bien que j'apporte quelque chose à.
这是旅游中心里面，我刚才问了，这个等一下哈，它3点有 tour， 这个 guide tour， 但是2点半也有是英语的，那我就参加英语，一个人是6块7毛6。有是说这个很值得，因为一般人没办法往下去，它那个地下里面有各种古迹可以看，自己都不晓得怎么走。更详细一点，拍一下。还有2、3分钟才会出发，那还没有。我先到这里拍一下。到处都是古迹，因为整个城都是世界遗产，别的世界遗产。这是旅游中心的。左边就是旅游中心，我要随时过去，我等一下出发。光这个标志都设计得很特别。1990年12月5号被入世界遗产。因为那个 tour 不知道多久，所以我先拍好了，那晚上也可以来这里拍，很漂亮。
Et les toits là, c'est pas mal, hein, c'est bien.
对面就是旅游中心，现在该回去了，已经快2点半了。这 English tour， 在这边等。
Welcome Saint-Émilion to all of you. My name is Gregory. We have less than an hour together to talk about the history of Saint-Émilion, so we start talking now. The tour won't be about wine, sorry to disappoint you. It will be about the history of Saint-Émilion, and the history has absolutely nothing to do with the wine. We'll talk a bit about wine during the tour, but the most important fact of Saint-Émilion is that we used to be a very important pilgrimage center for Catholic pilgrims who came here from the 8th to the 18th century. And why did people want to visit this place? They wanted to see the grave of Emilion. Emilion was not a bottle of wine, it was a man. The man really existed. He lived in the the 8th century, and a legend says that the man lived for 17 years alone in a cave. When he died, people thought that touching his grave would make you happy, make you rich, and make you healthy. So many people started walking to the place, hoping to see the grave of Saint-Emilion. So we're going to do exactly the tour that the pilgrims did in the Middle Ages, and we'll finish the tour in the monolithic church, which is the largest and deepest underground church in Europe. We are walking on the roof of a very special church that you can't see from outside because it's completely under the ground. So we'll see this at the end. We'll do the cave of Saint-Emilion, the catacombs where he's buried, and the church. If you want to follow the tour, you have to be really careful in the next street. We take the next street on the right, it's a very steep, hilly street. If you want to follow our explanations, you have to survive to the street. For people who make it, we continue talking at the end of the street. Okay, so it's this way.
Which is amazing.
The other one is
从那边下来的，到这个地方。
Okay.
My name is Gregory. We're starting really talking on that square, which used to be the graveyard for the poor pilgrims of the town. We'll be seeing in a few minutes the underground catacombs of the town where the men with privileges could be buried near the relics of Saint-Emilion. It's always very strange for me to see children playing in the corner there, because this is the only place where you still see graves. So this is actually a very small tomb for a child, and you have 700 such tombs under your feet, which dates back to the 10th, 11th and 12th century. So when the poor pilgrims visited the place, when they wanted to be buried in this place, if they didn't have a privilege, they were buried on the square. And then later on the square was turned to the market place of Saint-Emilion, where people would sell anything. So it's a very different square than what we have today. The square was in front of the church, so you can't see the church from outside. You can only see 3 windows. Behind the windows there are 3 naves, 40 meters long, 30 meters deep in the ground. The church was completely carved out of the rock, so monks have extracted millions of blocks out of the hill to have the church hidden inside. So you couldn't see the church from outside because there used to be no tower on the top. The church was carved at the end of the 11th century, and the church was started in the 12th century and finished in the 15th century. So for a century there was absolutely nothing to show that there was a church inside, just a very small entrance on my right. Okay. Today, the tower is really important for the church because of its weight. It's 4,500 tons, and today the pillars of the church can't resist to such a huge weight. So for the last 20 years we've done everything we could to reinforce the church pillars. You'll see it's not good looking. There are huge braces reinforcing the walls of the church. If they were not here, it would fall on your head. So there's absolutely no danger when we see the church. But I know that the reinforcement, that's not good looking. It's very efficient, but it's not aesthetic. Okay? So Saint-Emilion was a pilgrimage center. We'll be seeing the cave of the monk who was a Benedictine monk, but we had 5 different communities of monks and nuns living all together in Saint-Emilion, because for centuries there was no tourist office to organize tours, and there were monks to lead pilgrims in that place. This was the church of the Benedictine monks. My tourist office was the church of the Augustinian monks. If you've arrived from the top of the town, you may have seen a big wall, 30 meters high, but just one single wall, church of the Dominican monks. East of Saint-Emilion is the church of the Franciscan monks, and so on and so on. So many communities at each access of the town to make sure that the pilgrims would know where to spend their money. Okay. So now I'm going to invite you to the first cave. This is where I check your tickets.
So they have 700 kings buried under the floor of it.
刚才在那边解说，这整个教堂真的是很漂亮。在这里收门票，就刚才买的收门票。
ومارش الروسي هذا البنوك اللي أصحاب طلع روحها عن الرجال الفقراء ومارش donc משהו שיתמוך, יחזיק את העמוד שלי.
把门锁起来，怕热。
And families don't want you to make photos of their caves. So once we are inside, it's not permitted to make photos or make films. So outside it's fine, but inside it's not permitted. So we have to listen. Then things, it's very clever to write the name on the pillar, just like if I wrote Gregory on the pillar. Of course, children, you should never do it, and even adults. There's a graffiti here, which is one of the oldest ones of the town. It's over 350 years old. It was made by a visitor who spoke Latin and said that the tomb of Saint-Émilion could be seen in the cave. It's wrong. The grave was never in the cave. Most of the paintings have destroyed most of the graffitis have destroyed the paintings of our catacombs. So it destroyed the decorations of the churches of the catacombs. So of course you should never touch the walls. And you'll see that your head. So please be really careful as you enter the cave.
这个进二动线里面，好像说不可以拍了，只好收下来。刚刚就到这个下面这个地下墓穴去，因为不能拍照，然后讲的话没办法录下来。我这里面就是确定的遗迹，不过那个像是 Francisco Not， 不是那个Saint-Émilion 的。刚才他解说，这里面包含从第7、8世纪一直到这个上一个世纪的一些历史，因为讲得非常的复杂，但是它这里面的那个洞，那个地下室全部是用手雕的，全部是一块石头掉下来。所以这里虽然我们这样看，这个上面是一个建出来的教堂，可是它的下面地下室全部是用一块岩洞这样雕出来的，而且高有40英米，相当高的。那上面那里面有一些古代的雕刻啦、壁画啦，现在都褪色了。这个门是刚才我们进去的门，它现在变成那个招待的地方，在里面都不能够拍哈，所以说好可惜，没办法记下来。而它最后是从这里出来，里面这个门进从这里出来，它里面是一个很大的地下教堂。难怪那个 UNESCO 现在变成世界遗产，然后不能够随便进去啊。